Well, and now let's move on from the Coastal. Let's move into the Atlantic Division. And to me, the way this division goes, and I want to kind of map it out this way so nobody thinks that we're just completely just pushing teams to the side. Boston College, Wake Forest, Syracuse, and NC State. It's a lot of teams. Those are teams that I do not think are going to be able to compete for anything in this division. I mean, Boston College, 0-8 last year. Syracuse, 2-6. Wake Forest, 1-6.
How about this? Let me help you out. I bet their combined record between the three of them about 16-20.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to do the math on that one. I'll just take your word for it. But I'm looking at their conference games, and I will do the math because that one's easier. 6 wins between the 4. And that's because Boston College didn't have any. So I just want to throw it in there. I don't want to disrespect those teams, but I just don't think they're going to do anything. To me, the 3 in this division that are going to fight it out for the top, well, basically it's 2 teams trying to overtake Clemson because Clemson, we're going to crown their asses before they're even playing a game because that's how I do it. Louisville, Florida State, Clemson. Those are the 3 teams in the Atlantic. I want to start with the bottom guy from last year, from Louisville. This is a team, Bobby Petrino coming in, his 3rd year now since coming back to Louisville. And this is a team where I feel like they have the stuff to make a surprising run in the ACC Atlantic. Do I think they're going to overtake Clemson? No, but there's a good chance to me that they overtake Florida State for second in the Atlantic Division.
Ooh, is that a bold prediction?
Bold prediction Monday, or overreaction Monday, however you want to look at it.
Okay, yeah. Either way, you really can. I think that is really a bold prediction because I just don't see. You think that they're going to overtake Florida State?
To me, the key piece for this team is Lamar Jackson. This is a guy last year that I saw him play, and he was a freshman last year. Saw some of those games, and I'm like, man, that kid's got an arm. That kid's going to be good when he starts to kind of develop in his game under Bobby Petrino. And this is a kid that 1,840 yards as a freshman, 12-8 touchdown to interception ratio, had a rating of 126.8. This is the guy who is going to, I'm just expecting him to get better this year because I look at it and it was the game that really kind of opened my eyes to him was the Florida State game. I mean, yeah, they lost 41-21, but he went out there, he threw 307 yards, he had a completion percentage of 57%, and he had a touchdown to INT ratio of 3-1 in that game. Where I know you throw the one interception, and some people may say, well, Ricky, that's a key interception, but still, 3-1, I'll take that any day.
Absolutely you will. Absolutely you will. I think that you continue to look at, and I've said this now a couple of times, but this is kind of the running theme, at least that I'm seeing, is where do we look at with the offensive line? And this was an offensive line last year that started 2 true freshmen. Yeah, they were thrown into the fire really quickly. But now you get that experience, that year under your belt. You were 9-3. That ain't bad. But I think that now you have that experience. You saw what it was like. You felt what it was like. Now you're ready to go. Year 2 as a sophomore. They've returned 4 starters on the offensive line. Louisville is going to be really good.
Well,
but I'm telling you, I don't know if Louisville is going to be good enough to overtake either of those top 2 teams in Florida State and in Clemson. That's bold.
They have a better chance. They have a better chance of overtaking the Seminoles than the probably ACC Coach of the Year in Dabo Swinney yet again, and Heisman frontrunner, Heisman prediction winner, whatever you want to say, number 1 overall pick, Deshaun Watson, because that's what everyone's saying right now coming into the season. But one more thing I wanted to throw out, because I looked at another game that I forgot about from Jackson, their bowl game against Texas A&M. This was a kid that had 127 on the ground, or 126 on the ground, 127 through the air, 2 tutties, no interceptions through the air, and then 2 tutties on the ground. This is a kid that in his 2nd year, I think he's going to make more strides. A year from now, oh boy, Louisville is going to be good, especially with Clemson losing Deshaun Watson after this year. But to me, I just feel like Florida State, they have the better chance to overtake Florida State than they do overtaking Clemson, because Clemson to me is kind of like the untouchable for both Florida State and Louisville. I know I just probably pissed off a ton of Seminole fans, but yeah, Clemson's really fucking good.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
They're just really good.
I think that this is the part where you kind of take a look at and you go, Louisville. What are they gonna be able to do? What are they gonna be able to achieve in their first 5 games? They have Clemson on the road at Clemson, Florida State at home. Then they in November they have to take a trip to Houston. Houston's gonna be much better this year. And then I think that you look at the other pieces that they then have. Jackson, of course, emerged as a very good quarterback in 2015. And then you look at all the other positions. You have veteran starters, guys who have been there, guys that have gone through it. I think the offensive line holds up. They make the jump from last year to this year. The running game improves that much more. And I think that Louisville could overtake a team. And we'll see if they do overtake a team when I predict who they're going. Now I'm kind of being an ass like you are usually, Ricky. But you're gonna have to wait to see who I say they overtake.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I think Louisville definitely can push for 10 wins this season. I think that's not difficult at all. They lose to Clemson, they lose to Florida State, they lose to one more person, 10 wins.
Yeah, and I mean I'm looking at their schedule, and right now for sure, the wins on the table. They'll beat Charlotte. They'll beat Syracuse. They'll beat Marshall. They'll beat NC State. They'll beat Virginia. They'll beat Boston College. They'll beat Wake Forest. That's 7 right there. Then if you I didn't give you Duke. That's 8. You beat Kentucky. Okay, I'll give you Kentucky. That's 9. That means you just got to beat Houston, Clemson, or Florida State. Boom, right there. Just beat one of them, and boom, you're a 10-win team. So to me, it's 9, 10 wins is perfect in the realm of possibility for this team. And before we get into, because we're going to get into Clemson really quick, I want to move over to Florida State. Is this the team? I know I said I'm going to say it. Fuck it. Louisville, second in the division. Florida State's your second team behind Clemson. Am I wrong?
You could be.
Unless you think Florida State's going to win the division this year.
They could be my first team with Clemson behind them.
Okay, it could be. But what do you see from the Seminoles?
What do I see from the Seminoles? I mean, my goodness, I think that you take a look at this team, and it's led by Dalvin Cook, who proclaims himself as being the best.
I'm going to throw out a stat. 6.8 is the number. That is the career yards per rushing attempt for Dalvin Cook. 6.8.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
Most guys are happy with 4 yards per carry, and you're getting 6.8.
Yeah, he started a new Florida State record for rushing when he went for 1,691 all-purpose yards for rushing yards, and then all-purpose yards that was the rushing yards. The all-purpose was 1,935. Wow, 140.9 rushing yards per game. I mean, he was impressive, and we're talking about an offensive line that could be much improved. What the hell? How can it be much improved when you already have Dalvin Cook going for that much? Oh, right. He's a stud. So I think that is going to be huge for Florida State. I don't want to say that they live and die by Dalvin Cook, but if Dalvin Cook's going, watch out, because Florida State pretty much won't need to do much else. And how about this time last year, Ricky? You remember who we were talking about for Florida State?
Remind me. Refresh my memory.
Golson.
Yeah, he's not there anymore.
No.
Not there. Who's going to play quarterback, though?
How about
who's going to play quarterback?
How about that project that they tried, Everett Golson? They tried it.
Didn't work.
Comes over from Notre Dame, goes to Florida State, gets hurt. Should have just stayed at Notre Dame.
Well, and that's the one position, and this is why. This is the reason why right now I'm taking Louisville over Florida State. Dalvin Cook is nice, but to me, if you're playing the pros, you're playing in college, the most important, if you were like Ricky, you get to pick 2 positions where you could have the best player at each one. Just give me a franchise. In the NFL, give me a franchise quarterback. In college, give me the best quarterback, just a solid quarterback, and then give me guys to block for him. That's all I need. That is all I need at any level to be a good football team. Give me a guy to throw the ball, and then give me guys to block for him. And that's where Louisville has them. I mean, to me, Lamar Jackson is going to be better than, yes, Sean McGuire could start. However, it kind of makes me uneasy when you're a senior coming in and we're saying, and I quote from Athlon Sports in their preview, they say, where senior Sean McGuire returns, but will be pushed by a pair of talented underclassmen in DeAndre Francois and then true freshman Malik Henry. That doesn't sit well with me. And I know McGuire, back up for Jameis Winston, back up when they thought that Everett Golson was going to come in and be the guy. Just give the kid the shot. I mean, the one game he played, and I know it's one game, the one game he played for Jameis Winston when he was suspended for stealing crab legs or something or whatever, he didn't play bad. He's a good guy. But when you come in here and say, oh, yeah, our senior right now could be pushed by some underclassmen, that doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't sit well with me as a fan when you got a team like Louisville, had a true freshman play last year, play pretty good for a true freshman, and he's just going to get better his sophomore year and develop with those young tackles coming up with him.
My whole thing is the part that you say doesn't sit well with you at quarterback, where Sean McGuire's getting pushed and stuff like that.
I think he could just be the starter.
Here's the thing, though, is that they may be there pushing him because they want him to be better. They want to move him to the next level by doing that. You get to see what guys are made of when you push them with other guys. When they just go in there and they're the number one guy and there's no one else behind him, or there is and they've still got raw talent. They're not coming. They're not coming in that year. It doesn't do much. Doesn't do much for that quarterback. But when you have a guy who's being pushed by one guy, being pushed by two guys, it makes him show what he's got. And if he doesn't have it, clearly, all right, you're not going to be the guy. But this guy, he does. Or this guy, he does.
I could be wrong because I'm not within the Florida State organization. You're not every single day.
Very strange.
I didn't get my press passes, man.
Thought you were.
The whole thing I just think of is if Sean McGuire didn't have the stuff, look at what he's been through. He had to fight for playing time when Jameis Winston was there. Let's be honest. Was I gonna say start him over Jameis Winston? Not talent-wise, but I would have said start him after Jameis Winston got in all of his legal trouble, because that's how the side of it I was on when Jameis Winston get into all of his legal troubles. Then he came in, it's like, oh, we're going to see what he does. Nope, they hand it right to Everett Golson and don't even give the guy a chance. The way I'm looking at this is I just see this is going to be another situation where it's like, oh, he's got a shot, and they're just going to give the starting position away to somebody else, and he's going to be a senior on the bench. That's the way I see it. It's going to be another situation where either Francois or Henry is going to be named the starter, and McGuire is going to be the backup. And then you will see a team like Louisville overtake you, and a team like Clemson sit at the top with their number one quarterback, who is the face of their team. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is going to be good. Dalvin Cook, to me, is going to be, when we get to draft time and Brandon kind of goes away because he hates talking about the draft, I'm going to be talking about Leonard Fournette. I'm going to be talking about Dalvin Cook. They're going to be 1-2 to me in the running back department. But Florida State needs a quarterback. And to me, right now, I know where you're coming from, Brandon. Hey, give him a quarterback kind of competition, see what he's worth. But I think Sam McGuire is the guy because of what he's had to go through at Florida State, rather than a redshirt freshman or a true freshman coming in. But let's look at the last team we're going to look at in the Atlantic, I should say.
In the Athletic Atlantic Conference.
They're the team that everybody and their grandmother is saying, put them in the championship again. Put Clemson in the championship. Book the ticket today. They're going to be in the championship. What's your take on Clemson?
Are you booking your ticket?
Here's the thing. Here's my thing with Clemson. And this is, to me, out of all the stats I've been telling you guys from some of them, from the Athlon Sports article, 14 stats you need to know this season, to me, the Clemson one's the most interesting. And it's one number. 20. And that's the amount of receiving yards by wide receiver Mike Williams last season. This was a guy supposed to be the number one wide receiver for the Tigers last season. Gets injured on the first play of the season.
Yes, I remember watching that.
Only had 20 yards for the entire year. They get him back. They get him back when Deshaun Watson, arguably coming into this season, A, was more hyped than he was last season. B, could have a better season than he did last season. Could be the Heisman winner this year, unless you live on the West Coast and you think Christian McCaffrey's the true Heisman. Then you're wrong. But to me, this is going to be, they're going to be the best team in college football up until the playoff. The reason I say up until the playoffs is anything can happen. Anything can happen when you get into the playoffs. You could play in Alabama and get roasted. You could play in LSU and get roasted. Basically, what I'm saying is you could play the SEC. But they are going to be the best team all regular season up until they make the playoffs.
So the Tigers averaged 38.5 points per game last year. They return 8 offensive starters, Deshaun Watson being the most important. Finished third in Heisman Trophy voting. 4,000 yards via pass. 1,000 via the run. He's really good. He's really good. They are going to be one of the best teams in college football. But unfortunately, they have one of the other best teams in college football in the same division as them.
Florida State.
Yes. That is why I think Clemson could have a difficult time this year. Because I think we're going to look at two teams in Clemson and Florida State who they're going to win almost all their games. It's going to come down to who loses that one more. Because both of these teams lose a game, but does someone lose two? And I think that is going to be the biggest thing for these teams. Am I saying that Clemson is not going to be good? No, hell yeah, they're going to be awesome. And it's going to be so much fun to watch them. Are they going to be as good as last year? It's hard to be as good as they were last year and keep up that pace. Deshaun Watson was stupid good. That's a hard pace to keep up.
Mm-hmm. My biggest thing with this schedule, though, is, I don't know, you say like, oh, one of these teams may lose 2. I can't find a 2. I cannot find a 2 because the one that's in question is obviously the game at Florida State, because if Florida State beats them. But other than that, I can't find a 2. Troy, that's a win. South Carolina State, that's a win. Georgia Tech, that's a win. I know I said I'm high on Louisville, but they ain't going to beat Clemson. Not at home. I mean, Clemson wins that game. Boston College, not a chance. North Carolina State, not a chance. Syracuse, get out of town. Pitt, get out of town. Wake Forest, get out of town. And then South Carolina, Will Muschamp don't got a chance against Dabo, Sweeney, and Du Bois. But the one game that I left off that could be the second, and I'm very hesitant to say it's a second because I don't know. This is a team that is good, then they're not, then they're good, then they're not, then they're good, then they're not. And we talked about their coach before we got into all these previews, like a month ago, it seems like. But Auburn, on the road, week 1, maybe that's the 2. That and Florida State. If they do lose 2, maybe those are the 2 games they lose.
You know, I think that they could. I think that they could lose to Florida State. I could see them losing to Louisville.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not even I'm ready to say that. And I said that Louisville is going to be the second in the division.
The 3 of these teams, when I say the 3, Florida State, Clemson, and Louisville, the 3 of these teams are going to be very good. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just one of those. Again, I think Clemson is going to be good. I want to say that. They are going to be good. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be a top dog. But I don't know if they're going to be last year good. And that's where I could see them. You know, there could be a team, an Auburn, a team that just ends up being a stumble block. They may come out and just pound Auburn. And then I'll look back and go, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, but there could be a team like that they trip over. I mean, let me just say Notre Dame was not bad last year, but Notre Dame just about beat them.
Notre Dame was the only team, and Notre Dame should have beat them. That was the rainy game.
Yes, it was.
The rainy game. And I was happy just because I fucking hate Notre Dame. But Notre Dame should have Notre Dame should have beat them. And they were the only team to competitively play them at home. That was the only game that Clemson, besides that, 49-10 against Wofford, 41-10 against Appalachian State, 43-24 against Georgia Tech, 23-13, okay, 10 points, I guess that's close, against Florida State. Wake Forest at home, 33-13. Not many teams played them close at home. To me, and the reason why I say Florida State and Auburn could be the ones they lose, and this is why I don't think that Louisville is going to beat them. Here are their road games and their record last year. Louisville, 3-point win. Then you go to Miami, 58-0. NC State, 56-41. That's a close game for a Wolfpack team that I thought would get dominated by Clemson. Then Syracuse, they win by 10. South Carolina, they win by 5. Notice how the away games, then North Carolina, 45-37 in a game that we all think the Tar Heels probably should have won because they should have been able to make one more play than Clemson. Not going to blame the refs. And then they go ahead and lose to Alabama. All of those games away from Death Valley, away from their home field. That's why maybe Auburn, maybe Florida State are games that I could see losing, because this was a team that didn't have that same mojo when they touched the rock and run down the mountain before the game. Run down the hill before the game.
I'm really going to... I would be scared sometimes, I think, to run down that hill, especially in that rainy game. If you slip and you fall, you are getting trampled and you're dead.
I will tell you guys this. One of the things I want to witness, 2 things I want to witness before I die, college football-wise. Number 1, I want to be at a game in Clemson and witness that environment as Clemson touches the rock and runs down the hill. Number 2, I want to witness that environment. I don't know if they're going to do it now that Beamer's not there, but when they start playing the Metallica song, the Enter Sandman for Virginia Tech, and just having them run out, I want to witness and be there in that environment. Like, there are just environments in college football, basketball, that I just want to witness before I die, and those are 2 of them. Clemson's one of them.
I'll take Alabama LSU.
LSU too. That's
I'll take that rivalry.
And just like for Clemson, the anticipation, you're watching them kind of take the buses up the hill. They get out, they all just start to just congregate, and then they touch the rock and just run down the hill. Oh, I'd love to be there for that.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a couple of rocks outside. I've seen a couple of hills. And not only do you get to touch those rocks,
I don't want to run down it.
You can. No,
I just want to be there
Ricky,
for it.
Knowing you'd probably start rolling down it. But
I would.
I think that you could.
Roly-poly-oly right down the hill.
Roly-poly, that used to be a show on Disney Channel. It was stupid as all hell. But I
like Roly-poly-oly.
I did watch it.
You didn't like Roly-poly-oly?
It was stupid. Looking back on it, it was kind of dumb.
It's called childhood shows. They're all stupid because they're for kids, right?
Winnie the Pooh was freaking awesome.
And
don't tell me otherwise. But anyways, we're getting a little off of it. What I was saying is that you could just get a rock, you could hold it while you tumble down the hill.
Okay, I guess we'll have to do that.
Pretty significant. But to kind of close out this talk, is there are 3 teams who I think that Clemson could lose to. Realistically, Louisville, at home, on the road at Florida State, at home against Pitt. 3 realistic teams I think that they could lose to. If you looked at this schedule and you went, if you had to pick out 3 teams that Clemson could have a tough time with, who would it be? Why? Louisville, much improved team from last year.
They had a tough time with them last year, but that was at Louisville.
On the road at Florida State. Florida State, they got out of the rebuild system last year. They were still okay. This year, they're going to be real good. And then Pitt, they're a team that was 8-5 last year after going 7-6, 6-7, 7-6, 6-7. So they're going to be better this year from what they were last year. I think they could pose a threat.